Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that police stand part of the schedules. I call the honourable member Mike Sabin.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Very pleased to take a call on this particular aspect of this estimates debate, being a former police officer. And can I firstly just start off by commending the work of the New Zealand Police, led by a very constructive and frontline focused commander in Peter Marshall. It's my view, Mr Chair, that the New Zealand Police indeed set the standard, set the bar for policing globally, and this country can feel very well served by the men and women of the New Zealand Police out there on a daily basis, often putting their lives on the line to make our communities a safer place. And I just want to acknowledge the men and women of New Zealand Police in that regard. Mr Chair, it's fair to say that 2011 has been another successful year for the New Zealand Police, with a 4.8% reduction in recorded crime, and we now have recorded crime at a 15-year low. I can certainly recall, Mr Chair, as a police officer, I sometimes did wonder what sort of smoke and mirrors made up some of the statistics. But I think it's very fair to say that what we're really looking for is a trend, and the trend has been a consistent downward trending in recorded crime, and that, Mr Chair, means that there are less victims, there is less harm in our communities, there is less cost to our communities, and most importantly, Mr Chair, we can go about our business in our communities feeling safer. That, in some part, will be as a result of the some 600 more frontline police that the New Zealand public now can feel assured in having in their service. But also, Mr Chair, I believe it really goes, much of the credit must go to the prevention first approach that has been adopted since this National League government came into office. And indeed, some very positive changes have been made in the executive of the New Zealand Police, and have embraced the notion that preventing the problem is going to be a lot easier than coming along afterwards and trying to arrest your way out of it. So, Mr Chair, I want to speak to that to some extent, and I'll come back to that. But certainly, addressing drivers of crime is fundamental in reducing overall crime, and the investment that has been made by the New Zealand Police and this government is certainly showing the right trending, reflecting this approach. Of course, this approach, Mr Chair, runs hand in hand with the reforms right across the justice and corrections sector, which really do, it's fair to say that the police themselves don't stand alone in ensuring that our communities are safer places. For example, Mr Chair, in justice, if I can just reflect for a moment, we've brought in maximum jail sentences with no parole for the worst offenders. There are tougher sentences for people who commit crimes against children, something I know right across this House we all share a great deal of concern about, and fair to say that we are all committed to making a difference to those innocent young child victims. Introducing stronger bail laws, Mr Chair, is part of the program in this space, and reversing the burden of proof on some of the most serious offences, which, as a serving police officer, I can honestly say will provide a position where those who often walk free from a court and go on to commit offences while on bail will be denied of that opportunity, and we don't have to look too far to see very tragic examples of where that has happened. So I'm very pleased to see that particular bill moving forward. And of course, reducing the situations where defendants are bailable as of right, which does actually encapsulate a number of offences and offenders. And when people commit crimes against society, Mr Chair, I think it's fair to say that the onus, first and foremost, should actually be on the law-abiding citizens, their safety and protections, and so I think there will be some positive changes there also. And of course, police and justice are also served in the process of safer communities. Mr Chair.
I call the honourable member Mike Sabin.
Thank you, Mr Chair. With the service within corrections, another area where there has been a significant investment by this government in turning around what has been to some extent a holding pen for some of this country's worst offenders who ultimately will be released into society, and our goal must be surely to ensure that they are not going back into the justice system, and so a lot of effort has been put into more prisoner education, employment programs, Mr Chair. Drug and alcohol treatment has increased significantly and will continue to do so. And when you consider that certainly around some 85–90% of offenders will be confronted or will enter the justice and correction system with a drug and alcohol problem, this is an investment in preventing reoffending. Of course, more search powers for our corrections officers, and we have less positive drug tests, Mr Chair, and less prisoner escapes. So what we're really talking about here is a pipeline and a set of agencies and professionals serving New Zealanders and intrinsically linked in ensuring that our communities are safer. This government, Mr Chair, is proud to say that we have put victims at the heart of the justice system, and the New Zealand Police certainly are mindful of the prevention work in reducing the number of victims. Ultimately, the best crime prevention that can happen is really when it's focused on having less victims. The $50 levy that this government introduced has now serviced some 13 new services for victims, which is an interesting concept, and that money has been put to very good use. The victims now have a greater ability to have their say by way of their victim impact statements. And Mr Chair, I can again reflect on times when victims of crime had their one opportunity to stand up, to face their offender and to express their real feelings about how they had been wronged as they went about their lives innocently, and the ability for them to do that in an open and unencumbered manner, Mr Chair, is often the difference between them being able to move on and not. So I applaud that. And of course, the police now with extra powers to enforce on-the-spot protection orders, and some 6,000 of those safety orders have been issued since their inception, which ultimately means there are less victims, Mr Chair. Our police, Mr Chair, are really at the sharp end of this pipeline that I've been describing, and their prevention-first approach is really fundamentally what I think has been the game changer and has led to some of these very impressive statistics in terms of the downward trending. Of course, one victim is one too many, but we have to be realistic in that regard. The success, I believe, is a legacy of both Minister Collins and Minister Tolley, who has picked up from the very good work done there. And I'd have to say that prevention first has not always been the case. I remember back as a police officer, joined in the mid-90s, and with the Doon era and some interesting dilemmas there, and the introduction of the Clark government, the police very much moved to a commercial model where we were driven by stats, and theft and burglary was on a significant increase, and quite rightly police were aimed at targeting that. Of course, a big part of the reason for that A big part of the reason for that, Mr Chair, of course, was the burgeoning methamphetamine problem that went from virtually nothing to the worst in the world between 1998 and 2003. When you've got a $1,000 a day meth habit, Mr Chair, you are going to commit a lot of volume crime. Mr Chair, I believe the leadership of the Prime Minister in this space with regard to the methamphetamine strategy and the way in which the New Zealand Police have embraced the prevention first are all very good. We can mount very good arguments as to why New Zealand is a safer place today. Hard-working ministers, an excellent executive within the police, dedicated serving police officers. Mr Chair, I think we should all be proud of our men in blue. Thank you.
I call the honourable member Richard Prosser.
Thank you, Mr Chair.